All right, I'm back. Welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast, and the Second Amendment game changer officially underway. Trump's new Attorney General Todd Blanche launching a new process to restore federal gun rights for eligible Americans who lost them. For more than 30 years, there wasn't even a federal process for felons to even apply. Now, eligible people can petition the DOJ for each case, and it'll be reviewed for public safety and all that stuff. And for those on the left crying about this, if you want to restore voting rights for those who lost them, why not restore the right to bear arms? They are equally protected. And while AG Blanche is opening the door for gun rights, he's hopefully zeroing in on Fauci's freedom, confirming he has officially received the criminal referral for Dr. Anthony Fauci and calling it an ongoing investigation. Could accountability finally be on the table? Please. And finally, a massive drug bust in the Pacific. A DHS task force and the Mexican Navy, of all people, teaming up to seize 7 tons of cocaine off Mexico's Pacific coast with an estimated street value of $120 million and a massive hit to the cartels. Another step towards making America safe again. But first, Democrats never cease to amaze me on how creative they will be to steal our money. Let's do this. All right, we'll work on that one a little bit. All right, when I read this, I could not believe my eyes and ears. Stack this on just yet another crazy policy from someone who sold us as the moderate in the Democrat Party. Ro Khanna, he has this new mechanism to steal your money that you don't even have yet.
The California Democratic Party and the California labor movement just stood with Bernie Sanders and me in supporting a 5% wealth tax on 250 California billionaires.
But after getting called out by Mark Cuban, of all people, Rachel Maddow's twin brother, who explained unrealized value versus actual cash, basically laying out in crayon how bad of an idea this is. He said these $10 billion startups, even if they raise $1 billion, little, if any of that money, goes to the founders, who are now worth billions of dollars overnight, but they're that definition of cash poor and stock rich. So instead of saying like, oh, yes, you know what? My bad, dude. I'm an idiot. That policy doesn't work. Ro Khanna doubled down. Again, the guy who portrayed himself as a moderate. This is why none of them are moderate. He proceeded to explain how people could then take out a government loan against their shares to pay the government $50 million on every $1 billion of money that doesn't even physically exist, okay? This actually could be one of the most insane policies the left has ever come up with. Khanna said, allow liquid founders to pledge shares with a loan from the government to pay taxes. The loan period is long, but not infinite, 10 years or so. The loan is non-resource. At the end of the period, the loan is either paid back in cash or the government assumes the share. Dude, what? Look, let me just explain this to you, okay? This is his proposal. Let's put this in the form of a house in millions instead of billions, so it applies to us. Let's just say you buy a house that was worth, we paid $900,000 for it, all right? Nice house, and since we're doing this in millions instead of billions, you would not qualify for this 5% wealth tax because you're $100,000 under the threshold, right? Sounds great. But let's say a bunch of people move into that new neighborhood, tear down a bunch of old houses, build massive ones, the markets go great, and now the house that you paid $900,000 for is worth $3 million. This is totally reasonable. This literally happened in Greenwich with my house, okay? Great for you, sorta, because under Khanna's plan, you would actually owe the government 5% of $3 million, which is $150,000. Remember, we've reduced billions to millions to apply to us normal people. Oh, Carl, I don't have $150,000 laying around in my checking account. Neither do I, okay? So most people don't. Also, you don't have the $3 million from your house. It's not worth that until you sell it, which you haven't done yet. You're starting to see how stupid this is, right? Well, hold my beer, it gets better. Khanna wants to force you to take out a government loan to pay that $150,000, and the interest rate could be whatever they want. I mean, they could do like student loans, make it 10%. By the way, you would turn around and then give that $150,000 right back to the same government that just loaned it to you. Yes, this is literally the government adding a 5% surcharge to something that you don't have any of the money from. But here's the real kicker. Let's say after you pay that tax, a bunch of rich people in your neighborhood, the hell with this, I'm out of here. They just bounce. They don't want to live in California anymore. which will happen, they just abandon their home. Your property value goes back down to $900,000. Well, tough. You've already paid the government $150,000 for a value that never actually occurred, that you never actually realized. It's now worth $900,000 again. Oh, and if you get frustrated and walk away from your house, the government keeps any profit you might have had from your mortgage that you've paid for however many years that you've lived there, because the government is now a shareholder in your house under this new plan. This is the problem with taxing unrealized gains. Like, who's going to buy a house in that environment? Literally nobody. They're all leaving, which is ironically, it's going to crash the housing market and everything will be worth less with less of a tax base and less of an overall money coming into the government. It's already happening. So that's the plan. Take out the word house and put in the word business. And it's billions and not millions. It's literally the exact same analogy with 3 less zeros. People were already leaving before this tax. What do you think they're going to do now? Like, you can actually get a U-Haul going into California for like a fraction of the price of one going out because nobody's moving stuff there. Los Angeles County has lost 17,496 high-earning taxpayers last year. Orange County, 11,600. San Diego County, 9,400. Riverside County, 8,900. San Bernardino County, 84. I mean, these are like major numbers leaving. And they say this is to ensure health care for everyone.
Passing this ballot initiative will ensure that millions of working class and middle class Californians don't lose their health care.
Oh, this is so stupid. Bro, forget all the money that has already left the state. The money generated from this wouldn't even cover your $100 billion train to nowhere that you haven't built yet, let alone health care for every single person in the state. California already has the highest prices and taxes almost anywhere. You cannot get any more blood from this rock. You have attracted too many people that don't pay taxes, that would be users of these programs, consumers, and you have driven out too many people that would pay the tab for these programs. This proves all Democrats are absolutely economically illiterate. They all believe the same thing. They may dress it up nicely or talk about this and that. It's all the same thing. They want to take all the money from the rich people and spend it on trains to nowhere, the worst healthcare system you could possibly imagine, homeless people that don't get housed, while this money seemingly just vanishes into, I don't know, the ether. And then they just go raise taxes again when they lose all that money. See, Elon and the other billionaires don't have $1 trillion in the bank. His company might be worth that, but if he was to liquidate enough stock to pay a 5% wealth tax instead of taking a government loan, which is insane, that could collateralize his ownership, by the way, if he did that. The value of that stock, if he sold it, would just crater, which would also crush the wealth of other shareholders, some of which might not be super wealthy. Great job, Democrats. Ro Khanna should understand that he is one of the wealthiest people in Congress. He's worth 1,200 times more than the median American household. I'm actually sure he does understand this stuff, but this is such a classic talking point of the left. Let's demonize like this the rich guys are the worst. Let's demonize this small percentage of the population, claim that they're super oppressive and bad, that they're the source of all the problems, and let's take their money. And the masses, which are not super wealthy, are like, well, actually, that sounds okay. What these people don't understand is that at the end of the day, if you take their money, they'll stop creating jobs. And then normal people, like you and I, middle-class people, won't have employment anymore. If you were to confiscate all the money from all the billionaires all over America, you would have between $8 and $9 trillion. But to run all 50 states, all their budgets, and the federal government combined, that would take between $10 and $11 trillion. So around October, November, you'd run out of money if you took all the wealth of every billionaire in the country. Then what? The problem is now not how much money we're taking in or what rich people are getting away with or not paying taxes. The problem is we spend too much damn money. The government never shrinks. It constantly grows, mostly because we have idiots running the government, but also when there's a problem, they don't measure it in reasonable terms. Their solution is just like, let's throw more money at it and let's not do better. For a change, let's just do government better. And the government that governs best is the one that governs least. I didn't come up with that. It certainly doesn't build train tracks to nowhere. Private equity fund manager, real estate investor, and CEO of Cardone Capital and Cardone Technologies, Inc., Grant Cardone. Grant, you still have a non-burned down residence in California. This is insane, this plan.
It is absolute. Well, I don't know if it's insane or not, Carl. I think it's intentional. You cannot have this much incompetence in one location. These people are not stupid, dude. They're trying to bankrupt the state of California and make the federal government responsible for it. I mean, that's the play here, because the federal government can print money forever and save the state of California. In the meantime, though, the average person in California, by the way, I lived there for 25 years. My wife and I and 2 kids left there about 14 years ago because we saw the writing on the wall, steal from the rich, man, and give to Congress.
Yeah.
Look, affordability's out of control. Housing prices out of control there. Gas prices 11% higher than the rest of the country. Utilities 61% higher than the rest of the country. If you make 400 grand there, you're paying probably
you're in poverty.
$160,000 in taxes, more than you need to if you live in Arizona, Utah, Texas, or Florida.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's like I was looking at something the other day that showed that you need a minimum of 250 grand a year just to survive in California, which is its own problem. But this is probably this is the problem. Is Democrats now? There was a poll recently done. It was like 50 or 60% of Democrats believe that socialism is good, and only 30-something% believe that capitalism. There it is, right there. 58% says yay socialism. 32% said yay capitalism. Are you kidding me?
Because nobody's teaching them capitalism, dude. If you give handouts, you break people down. Okay. The moment I give you something, you don't need to learn anything. And this is what's happening. And people know it, by the way. I don't think the further these guys in California and New York go, the better it is for the rest of America, because it's just clear to conservative Democrats, to intellectual, analytical, logical, common base, religiously believing families across America, the Democrat or Republicans, like, they don't want handouts.
Yeah.
They want to work hard. They want to save their money. They want to buy a house. There's a statistic out there, Carl, that says you have a 48% better chance of owning a home when you leave California than if you stay there. It's the most expensive housing in America. And they don't allow you to build anything, and they allow anyone to come there. And by the way, if you come there illegally, you get more benefits than if you do it legally.
Well, you actually, and you're speaking about building there. I want to jump around a little bit before I get back to Mark Cuban. You had a house there that partially burned down because of the fires, because they didn't fill up the reservoirs and the fire hydrants were off. Yeah. And you said it's like just the biggest pain in the rear to try to get any permit to put a shingle on.
I had to threaten a lawsuit for them to approve my house. They were threatening to have me tear the house down to the ground and rebuild it in entirety rather than simply fixing it. This is true, bro. Like, I'm telling you, like, there it is right there.
Yeah.
26 homes burnt down to the left of me, to the east of me, or west of me, 80 homes to the west of me. I'm the only one surviving. You would think that Malibu would use it as the home of hope. Instead, they wanted me, literally threatened to have me tear that perfectly in-place house. They wanted me to tear it down to the ground and spend $50 million to rebuild it. I'm not asking anybody to feel sorry for me, by the way. I fought them and won, and we're finally putting our house back together. But I'm still going to be on a vacant beach.
I tell you, if I had your kind of money, I would just invest in lawsuits to ruin liberals. But that's, just my thing. Mark Cuban, though, this is a guy who, held the hand of the left. He pushed for a bunch of these policies. He's one of the most outspoken critics about Ro Khanna's plan. He's actually coming around. He said, you can bet if I'm investing in a multi-billion-dollar startup, I'm asking them to move from California first. In my opinion, if this passes, only idiot startup founders stay in Cali. I've done it before, and I will do it again. Dallas, Pittsburgh, Indiana, I will make not being in California a prerequisite for any investment. Ideology is not a strategy, Ro.
Yeah. And what he's telling people is, by the way, Mark tends to move with the wind, right?
Sure.
But, I think he's got political ambitions trying to please a lot of people.
Good luck.
But look, what he's also saying there is he's not going to invest in founders that start in California, because you're going to be taxed out of the game.
All right.
We left there 14 years ago for one reason: taxes and regulations. Couldn't get anything done there. I was getting sued every 3 weeks by whoever for whatever. I have 5 lawsuits going on right now from the state of California, and I don't even live in the state of California. This is people buying products from me in Florida. that are using the system, bro. It's insane. And unfortunately, because it's probably the greatest piece of real estate on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And we need it. We need California to do well and to be prosperous and flourish. Right. And the U-Hauls tell the whole story right there. Yeah. When you can't get a U-Haul,
it ain't going to fix it under Gavin Newsom, that's for sure. Well, Grant Cardone, I hope your house gets fixed and you don't get sued too many more times. Appreciate it.
I'll be fine, bro. I'll be fine either way.
All right, I appreciate it. All right, coming up, we're still 77 days away from the midterms, and the Democrat establishment is already more focused on creating false momentum for 2028 than fixing their garbage policies. I got my thoughts on that later in the show. But first, the corporate media is bending over backwards trying to stoke discontent in the military. Only one problem: there isn't any. And CENTCOM's commander just visited the spot where it was supposedly happening. Not so much. Got that next.
A Social Security update. Millions collect Social Security, but 70% of Americans don't get their full benefits. Now, a new report shows how to boost your Social Security by as much as $188,000. Author Matthew Allen reveals 5 key strategies in a new report. Newsmax calls it the best guide for retirees. Everyone needs this free Social Security report. Act today to get your full benefits.
It's me, Ricky. You know me. You grew up with me. I'm 56 and a half years of age. I am using this right here, Fatty 15, to get me to feel and look the best I've ever felt at my age. The C15 nutrient in Fatty 15 has been known to strengthen our cells and slow the aging process at a cellular level. And it is a game changer for your overall vitality. I urge you to try Fatty 15. Give your cells what they need and give yourself a chance with more time.
Pain kept slowing me down. Then I tried new KT Menthol pain relief patches. Unlike other patches that only mask pain, KT increases blood flow to help accelerate healing. So don't give up. Tape up. New KT Menthol pain relief patches.
Almost half of women runners say safety is their biggest concern. Majority of us have to constantly change routes, start times.
Instead of thinking of my pace, we worry about being followed, unwanted attention, and stuff that is simply scary.
Imagine this banana was a less lethal device, capable of incapacitating an attacker, letting you get to safety.
At Byrna, we don't sell bananas. Go to Byrna.com to find how you can always safely make it to the finish line.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
I was at a group meeting, and an admiral came up to see me over the weekend. And it was at a big group, and he happened to be an admiral retired. He said, I've been on ships that are out there much longer than that, sir. And I know people on the Lincoln, they say it's beautifully maintained and beautifully taken care of. And other people went out and they found out to be true. It was fake news reporting from CNN.
You heard me talk about this as a guest on my own show on Friday because I had surgery Thursday. President Trump today addressing the media's latest desperate attempt to establish some sort of narrative about low morale above the USS Abraham Lincoln. I've been on this boat. It's an awesome boat, but it's been on this very long deployment because, war and stuff. Trump's comments, though, came after the U.S. Central Commander, Admiral Brad Cooper, visited the aircraft carrier this weekend. He talked to the crew and hailed their efforts. Cooper wrote an op-ed today saying recent media reporting has portrayed varying perspectives on operational tempo, crew morale, and the realities facing our deployed forces. What I found aboard the Lincoln is that many elements of those stories are old news. Cooper noting the crew is tired, that they're firing on all cylinders, and that history will record this deployment as one of the most operationally intense and consequential of the modern era. Yeah, it is. Not to mention the experience we gained. Teddy Daniels, U.S. Army combat veteran and Purple Heart recipient, and one of the guys who smoked Osama bin Laden, Rob O'Neill. All right, Teddy, they keep getting this stuff wrong. They're like, it's so bad, and it turns out it's not.
No, it's not, Carl. And I could see to where a civilian liberal reporter would see where this is bad. They've never felt discomfort like those that have served. And our service members, and you know this, and Rob knows this, they're prepared for this. Those sailors and Marines on that ship, they're not in any harm. They're not being neglected.
They have a gym.
Excuse me?
They have a gym.
They have a gym. They have food. They have beds. And Carl, like, listen, I was just an infantry ground pounder, okay? Slept in dirt and ate MREs. So, like, even if the media says it is this bad, it's not that bad.
It's not.
Seriously.
Yeah. But Rob, here's the other thing that people don't talk about. This experience garnered in the last 120 days of military operations probably equates to greater operational testing of people and equipment than the entire Iraq-Afghanistan war.
Right. This is a historic deployment, Carl. And I hope you're healing up, too. I wonder what it's like with one arm. You could probably only do reps of about 315, you animal. No, this is a sense of pride. I know what it's like there. I've done one deployment on a carrier. I've done a couple more, I think 12 Sea Service ribbons. And guys are going to their chiefs. Chiefs are getting with the LPOs. They're saying this is what the Navy does and reminding them we've got a very strong heritage in the Navy, and you don't realize your living history until it's over. That's what they're doing here. Is it going to suck? Yes. Are their days off? No. They are on a carrier. This is a nice way to deploy. This is 2026. We can get food and supplies to them. It's just you're working every single day, but there is going to be some pride. Look at all the ordnance they've dropped. Look what the forward defense and simply the deterrence of the USS Abraham Lincoln on the horizon. What it does for this country when morale needs a jump. Look at a carrier. Yeah. Plus being out there, if you get low on morale, just go out to flight ops. Watch that for a little while. That'll cheer you up. You can't be a red-blooded American and not love that.
Well, exactly. Not to mention all the pink misting we're doing in Iran right now, which is great. But Teddy, this is the other thing: is a lot of people who joined the military after Iraq and Afghanistan. And you guys both know some of them. Not all of them joined to go shoot bad guys. Some of them joined for college or, because they didn't know what to do. So, the fact that some people are complaining about this, I'm not that surprised.
I'm not either. And my take on that is, you knew what you were signing up for. If you're going to bitch and moan and complain about it, go find another profession. Right. Because this is not for you. And Carl, I want to say, too, the liberal media reporting on this with the false reports on the morale and the sailors not eating and everything else. Don't you think our adversaries are seeing that? Don't you think they're taking that into context? And why? Well, we all know why. But the liberal media is out there. They're helping our adversaries with this type of reporting, Carl.
But also, Rob, Iran is so desperate. They're like, we're gonna offer, what is it, like, 10 trillion Iranian whatever dollars, which comes out to like 30 grand in exchange for a U.S. service member. Good luck.
Well, yeah, it sounded like a lot when they were offering 50 million Iranian space bucks or whatever their money is. That's a prime example. They're using our dollars because we're squeezing the way we can. That's how you shut off a supply line. And what Iran is doing, they're using our media because they know the midterms are coming up. Fortunately for us, our commander-in-chief doesn't care about the midterms. Plus, he's not, as far as we know, running for a third term. So politics are not a part here. He's gonna work it out to counter their October surprise, but that's all we're seeing. He's in complete control of this.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how many more surprises you could have on Trump because he's been it. All right, Teddy, Rob, we appreciate both of you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Carl.
Coming up, Eric Swalwell and Fang Fang back in the headlines. Remember these two clowns? Newly revealed FBI files show the Bureau had evidence of potentially illegal campaign donations linked to the suspected Chinese spy. So when did they do anything? Next.
Newsmax.
Shoots it straight. No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax. Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think. They let me decide.
Real news for real people.
See you Sunday, Jim. Whoa! Delivery.
Thanks, Kurt.
You like that? See you Sunday, Jim.
Sunday.
See you Sunday.
See you Sunday.
See you Sunday.
I just got my pilot's license. See you Sunday.
The whole town can feel it. Sunday's coming.
The NFL on CBS, streaming all season on Paramount+.
See you Sunday.
That's my boy Cam Skyler.
Whoa!
An Erie Metal roof is built to outlast just about anything life can throw at it.
Like a lifetime of hailstones playing hardball.
Or scorching summer temps.
Plus, they'll outlast your mortgage with a 50-year transferable warranty.
Get a free consultation with Erie Home. Call or click today.
Celebrate low prices on flooring at Lumber Liquidators. Now through August 25th, we're dropping prices on hundreds of in-stock flooring in every store. Hurry in for epic deals on hundreds of varieties of luxury vinyl plank flooring, engineered hardwood, solid hardwood, laminate, and more, starting as low as 69 cents a square foot. But hurry and say hello to your new floor before the sale ends August 25th. Start shopping nationwide or online at lumberliquidators.com.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
America, worth defending, with a relentless warrior ethos. Our bravest stand tall on the shoulders of giants, securing peace through strength. Now is the time to earn your place in the fight.
You're grounded.
You're gonna ground me? When you're 45 and you haven't even screened for colon cancer.
I'm busy. I promised your brother I'd fix the sink 3 years ago.
The Cologuard Plus test is non-invasive with no prep.
And it detects 95% of colon cancers, similar to colonoscopy.
Now that's thinking inside the box.
False positive and negative results may occur. The Cologuard Plus test is not for those at high risk.
All right, Eric Swalwell, the guy who farts on national TV, is back in the news today, and this time it's the FBI doing the talking. The Trump administration releasing memos showing the FBI, back in 2014, guys, was actively trying to recruit Fang Fang, also known as Christine Fang, a suspected Chinese intelligence operative, as an informant. They gave her the code name Rusty Thumbs. I don't want to hear the backstory on that, but while the FBI, though, was trying to recruit her, Fang Fang was getting super cozy to then Congressman Eric Swalwell. So close, he later admitted they had a sexual relationship. Bro, she wasn't after you, okay? She also helped place interns in his office and was suspected of funneling illegal campaign donations through American donors. Now, the FBI already knew her parents were suspected Chinese intelligence officers. That's why they were trying to recruit her. And here's where it gets super weird. The FBI wasn't just investigating Fang Fang. They were initially looking into whether or not Swalwell himself had been part of the bribery and campaign finance scheme. And overseeing the Justice Department Public Integrity Section at the time, this is a name you might recognize, drum roll. Oh, right, this guy, Jack Smith. He's like MasterCard. He's like everywhere you want to be. The FBI ended up dropping Swalwell as a subject, saying it did not have the evidence to commit a federal crime. I don't know how hard they look, but Fang Fang then fled the United States, returned to China in 2015, and was never heard from again. But the question is now, what exactly did the FBI know about Swalwell more than a decade ago, and why did the investigation ultimately just go nowhere? Former U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama, Jay Town, and Senior Counsel at the Article 3 Project, Josh Hammer. Josh, this is like bat you know what. The fact that nothing amounted from this investigation?
Listen, it's crazy. On the other hand, I hate to say it, but it's unfortunately totally unsurprising. I mean, if you go back to 2014, who was President? Barack Obama. And then we had President Trump. But we know very, very well that the FBI was, shall we say, pretty corrupted during Donald Trump's first term as president. I mean, this is the deep state at work. That's essentially exactly what is going on here. Eric Swalwell was a rapidly escalating politician from the golden blue state of the moment from California. We now know that he had gubernatorial ambitions. He was running for governor of the cycle until he was forced to drop out of that race. He was someone who was ascending the ladder in California Democratic politics, and there were essentially no investigators inside the FBI who wanted to touch it. I think it's basically just that simple, Carl.
Yeah, no, but Axios reported on this, Jay, in 2020. And I'm sitting there, Swalwell, back in 2020, when he was asked if he had any concerns about Fang Fang. Listen to this.
No, Jim, I was shocked when, just over 6 years ago, I was told about this individual. And then I offered to help, and I did help. The story says that, there was never a suspicion of wrongdoing on my part, and all I did was cooperate. And the FBI said that yesterday. But the wrongdoing here, Jim, is that at the same time this story was being leaked out is the time that I was working on impeachment on the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. And if this is a country where people who criticize the president are going to have law enforcement information weaponized against them, that's not a country that any of us want to live in.
Jay, if I'm not a legal man, but if you're a solid 2 and you're dating like 6 rungs up from yourself, it's probably not real. Maybe you should have seen it coming.
In the papers, they declassified documents, and when you read those documents, the FBI 302s, you really do get a picture that Fang Fang was almost bragging about being a spy for the Communist Chinese Party, that she had ties back to the Ministry of State Secrets in China. And so you had bellboys and bartenders able to discern that she seemed like she was a Chinese spy, but an elected member of Congress had no idea whatsoever. And you know what? Eric Swalwell might be that dumb, though, Carl. So maybe he didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. But Josh, he was on the House Intel Committee with cosmic clearance for the craziest stuff, and he didn't know?
Carl, what is it that Donald Trump said when he came down the Gilded Escalator, Trump Tower? He said, Mexico, they're not sending their best. Well, frankly, that's kind of how I view a lot of the folks in Congress these days. I mean, they're clearly not sending their best to Capitol Hill. Eric Swalwell, definitely not the best. That's why his political career has now grinded to a rather rapid halt, shall we say, and he is now out of politics in disgrace. But I think if we're making a more serious point, I think it is now incumbent. By the way, I give a lot of credit to President Trump for unclassifying this, so we can actually have seen this for ourselves. But I would like to learn a little bit more. I would like to learn a little deeper as to potentially who was actually making the decisions not to pursue any leads on this. Let's actually try to get some accountability if it's not too late.
Yeah, no, 100%. Real quick, Jay. Minnesota, Cam Higbie, no relation, friend of the show, though, goes over there in this full burqa like he's doing now, exposes how easy it is to vote, and now they're like, we're going to charge you with stuff. He's like, but I didn't touch a single ballot. So if he did something wrong by not touching a ballot, what about the 250,000 people that Scott Presler exposed that aren't supposed to be registered at all?
Yeah, I actually dug into this when I knew we were talking about it tonight, just to be sure. He did absolutely nothing wrong. James O'Keefe did nothing wrong. They just went in, talked to folks as to what it would take for them to be able to register to vote, and they needed to fill out really an affidavit and show some ID. They never filled out an affidavit, never produced any identification, and just left those different voter precincts. But the fact that they are so apoplectic about the fact that they even sort of brought cameras into this function just goes to show you how much they really know what type of voter fraud has been going on in Minnesota.
Yeah, and then that poll worker looked like a human Venus flytrap. I can't believe that. All right, Josh, Jay, we appreciate both of you.
Thanks, Carl.
See you, Carl.
Don't dye your hair weird colors, folks. It's not good. All right, coming up, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is taking aim at Islamification of America, and his first target is the foot washing stations that we told you about a little while ago at the Texas airports. We got that in Culture Clash next.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.
We wanted transparency, but we couldn't find it. So we started Good Ranchers to reconnect the American family to the American farm. All of our meat is 100% born, raised, and harvested right here on American soil. But good sourcing is just the beginning. We go the extra mile to take stuff off your plate. Pre-trimmed cuts, easy thaw bags, fully cooked options.
Ooh, yeah, this is good.
And it's good for you. No antibiotics, no added hormones, no seed oils, no gluten, no funny business.
Nobody knows Corvettes like McMulkin Chevrolet, the world's largest Corvette dealer for 5 consecutive years. Set apart by its name alone, Corvette delivers a legacy of American craftsmanship, and a vehicle that sets the bar for performance cars deserves a buying experience that beats it. With hundreds of Corvettes in stock and ready for immediate delivery nationwide, it's no wonder Corvette enthusiasts from across the USA keep coming back to McMulkin Chevrolet.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
Why do you join the Bureau, Agent Strider?
Because I believe in justice. These crackers getting away with murder. We can't let that go unanswered.
You're partnering with one of the most ruthless mobsters in history.
I'm a head up. Let's end this. No rules.
I better look out.
Pretty proud of yourself, huh?
Only in theaters September 4th.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that. No needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. A simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drew. Our cells oxidize, and Fatty 15 reduces that risk. C15 is the longevity nutrient. I take this nutrient. My family takes the nutrient. You should too. Fatty 15 has benefits that people actually see and feel.
Every 8 minutes, a claim of sexual assault is filed against rideshare drivers.
But rideshare companies prohibit both drivers and riders from carrying firearms to protect themselves.
Imagine this banana was a less lethal device capable of incapacitating an attacker in a fraction of a second and allowing you to escape.
At Byrna, we don't sell bananas. Go to Byrna.com to find out how you can always be prepared to defend.
Well, there's some major updates in the efforts to Islamify America, actually stopping it. A win out of Texas at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport said that it will not proceed with the proposed Islamic foot washing stations, thank God. Governor Greg Abbott ripped the airports, writing in part, government-owned airports cannot favor one religion over another. Texas will not allow illegal religious discrimination and taxpayer-funded facilities. And then said the state will review grants and referred the airports to the Department of Transportation for investigation. This comes after New York Town told a Christian resident they would not be able to set up a nativity scene in the town's public square, but it's totally fine to hang banners for Ramadan throughout the city on public property. My great state of Connecticut. This is just insane. They have passed a law requiring the instruction of Islamic and Arabic education into their public school curriculum. I am calling on all Christian teachers to just go ahead and baptize Muslim students. See how you like that one, Allah. Political strategist Luke Ball and CEO of Citizens Alliance, Cliff Maloney. Cliff, this is the same thing. Like if I just started baptizing people in a public school, they would lose their mind. But Islam, nope, bow down, pray.
Yeah, look, there's so much virtue signaled from the left that they have to choose Islam over Christianity. That's the wild thing. Think about that. Why is it always that Islam gets favored over Christianity in this country? And the best thing you said, Carl, and I always go back to this, follow the money. The second that Greg Abbott said, hold on a second, we're going to look at the funding for some of these public airports, that's when they pulled it. Because at the end of the day, the leftists are going to cry, they're going to push for these radical things. But when you try to come after their money, they start to get rational, they start to get sane, and they start to think clearly. That's the type of thing that Christianity, we have to push back on some of this radicalism.
Well, obviously the left loves Islam because of all the women's rights and things like that in the religion. But Luke, speaking of invasions, there's a village of Piddington in the UK, is about to be swarmed with a new camp that's going to house 1,250, quote, asylum seekers. They're all fighting-age men, by the way. Just for reference, there are 46 children and 268 adults in this village. That means there are going to be 23 fighting-age men for every one child in the village. The village voted to leave the UK in protest.
Yeah, the liberals are looking at this in the United States, and they're not saying it's a horrible thing over there. They're saying we wish we had that here in the United States. They wanted open borders. They wanted rampant asylum. They wanted people to come into this country. Why? So they could grant them mass amnesty and have them elect Democrats from now until kingdom come. They didn't care about the cost. They didn't care about the crime. They could care less about even those individuals being brought over who were drug smuggling and human smuggling. They just wanted power. That's their ultimate goal, is to just have power.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, Cliff, obviously the media just covers for this stuff, so that's like reason 5,286. Let me give you 87 on why you don't hate the legacy media enough. A college campus shooting unfortunately happened at Virginia State University this weekend, which is a gun-free zone. It resulted in 5 people being shot, but it wasn't widely reported because this is the suspect, 19-year-old Cameron Harris. Black man from Hennico, Virginia, was found hiding in a closet for like 20 hours after the incident.
Yeah, and look, here's the best part. I didn't even know about this until I heard about it on your show, Carl, right? That tells you, I mean, I haven't heard anything. You're not seeing any reporting of this because the person that is being charged is a Black American. If this would have came up and it would have been a white guy, it fits the narrative. But the left is so good about this, Carl. The mainstream media will only report on things that fit their narrative. And this doesn't fit it. Yes, we should be talking about this. Yes, we should be pushing for things like campus carry and getting rid of these so-called gun-free zones. But it doesn't fit the narrative.
No, so they didn't run with it. And in fact, the story died on every network except here. Rhino Senator Bill Cassidy, Luke, your boy, he's running to fake news CNN, crying about the Trump administration not giving little kids 72 vaccines all at once. Roll this.
Is President Trump saying some of these, quote, crazy, stupid things?
Yeah, that's a crazy, stupid thing. This is why the president's poll numbers are going down, because people don't perceive that he knows the reality of their life.
But they always do. Like, at no point was Trump like, you cannot take these vaccines. It's just you don't have to take them all at the same time. That's all he said.
In the post-primary television interviews, they always show their true colors. When they lose, when they're angry, when they have an axe to grind with the president, that's when they come out and show you who they truly are. If they were really MAGA, if they were really pro-Trump, like they said they were their entire time in the U.S. Senate, or at least up until their primary trying to get votes, then you actually would have seen them manifest that afterwards. But because they hated him, now they can just be on full display, and I'm glad they're being exposed.
Yeah, shocking that they would do something like that. I know, right? Luke, Cliff, appreciate both of you.
Thanks, Carl. Back, Carl.
All right, coming up, Democrats have terrible policies, but instead of fixing them, they're just tinkering with the primary calendar. I'm going to tell you all the things behind their thinking next.
For all the extra hours and endless meetings, you deserve this. It's the Omaha Steaks Labor Day event, and right now we're offering 50% off site-wide. Order now and you'll get 8 of our famous burgers free when you visit omahasteaks.com/TV.
Have you ever thought of getting a walk-in tub for you or someone you love? Now is a great time to take a look at getting a Safe Step walk-in tub.
With Safe Step's standard heated seat and new fast fill faucet, you can enjoy a nice warm bath up to 20% faster. And the convenient touchpad control is right at your fingertips.
Each tub comes standard with a dual hydrotherapy system. The 10 water jets can help increase mobility, relieve pain, boost energy, and improve sleep, while the MicroSoothe advanced air therapy system oxygenates and softens skin.
Safe Step walk-in tubs are built to maximize safety so you can stay in your home and enjoy the comforts of bathing again.
So call now for more information and a free, no-obligation consultation.
When you call today, you'll also receive our limited time offer. Don't wait to enjoy safer bathing. Call 1-800-296-0431.
We can't find a ranch style with a view.
And a mom-in-law suite.
More realtor agents recommend Realtor.com. With their expert new search tool, just search it like you'd say it.
room for mom.
And Reba. Make it real with Realtor.com.
John was the most incredible person I'd ever met. He was present as a Marine and present as a dad, as a husband. When I was picking up my daughter from daycare, my friend that I would carpool with mentioned that there was an aircraft that went down. In an instant, you know, your life does change. I got this call from Tunnel to Towers, and she said, "We're going to take care of your mortgage." I'm so grateful for that.
Go to T2T.org. It only takes $11 a month to make a positive impact.
Most people call leaf filter when their gutters are clogged and they notice one of the many issues that can bring. You can get ahead of costly damage by protecting your home's gutters today.
Schedule your free inspection today. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
You know, when I came in here, I was at a 15, and that's no joke. My spinal cord was almost severed. I feel like I'm gaining my freedom. My pain level of the day is nothing.
No pain now?
No.
Okay, feels good?
Yep.
And I can feel my legs waking up and getting feeling back in my leg and my foot I haven't had in a year and a half, 2 years. I feel like I'm getting my life back.
Venati succeeds where others fail.
When Saturday rolls around, I don't want to jump through hoops to watch college football. Good thing DirecTV makes it easy to keep up with my favorite college teams. No hopping between apps or channels.
Stream college football without the hurdles on DirecTV.
All right, so the primaries are tomorrow for 5 more states for the midterms, and Democrats, they're already looking at 2028. Instead of changing their policies, you know, the ones that like didn't get them elected, they're changing which states vote first to try to create some like false momentum in hopes of influencing the national elections next go around, moving South Carolina to January 22nd, okay, in 2028, followed by Nevada on February 1st. New Hampshire will be February 8th, which is interesting because the New Hampshire, they have a law in their state that makes them the first primary in the nation, so we'll see how that one plays out. New Mexico on February 15th, and then Michigan on February 22nd. Changing your primary dates instead of policies is like having a broken car that you know the engine doesn't work, yet you're putting a bunch of money into new tires and a new stereo in hopes to sell it to somebody that you know is going to come there and be like, hey, man, can I test drive this thing? No. The reason they're tinkering is because they think there will be more favorability for certain candidates on the far left in the party direction in those states, which is funny because at the same time, people like AOC, who is definitively their frontrunner for president in 2028, is completely distancing herself from past policies that she touted, like the Green New Deal. She even said over the weekend that, you know, past rhetoric she would not use today.
I think that, you know, during lockdown, of course, rhetoric in that time is not rhetoric that we would use today.
I don't think she actually believes that stuff, but they're also just straight up denying their past policies. These are policies that they literally told us, if we don't do this, we will all be dead.
This is not an elitist issue. This is a quality of life issue. People are dying. They are dying.
No, they're not. She actually, never mind. She wanted like $50 trillion for the Green New Deal with no idea how it was going to be spent. Was going to crush every industry with regulation, shut them down, and instead they could have just gone out and like planted 9 trees and it would have offset their carbon footprint. Pivot all you want, lady. This is the party that has their most vocal, and the most powerful wing of that party is the Democrat Socialist of America, putting out a statement, obviously also celebrating Fidel Castro's 100th birthday. Are you kidding me? Wasn't this the party that said that fascism was bad?
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do.
Donald Trump is a fascist.
Donald Trump is making this nation look more and more like a fascist state.
That haircut's fascist. Fascism, severe economic and social regimentation by forcible suppression of opposition. That's the definition of that's what Fidel Castro was, okay? I don't know if they just are like throwing darts at some policy board in the dark room while smoking acres of weed. But some of the people and some of the stuff coming out of this party is insane. The Michigan Caliphate representative, Abdul Saeed, wants to tweak our Second Amendment too, saying in a now like internet-wide deleted clip, we have the quote, he wanted to replace guns with health care as the Second Amendment. He said, what if we tweaked the Constitution, amended the amendment, and instead of the right to bear arms, we changed it to the right to have health care? Imagine what that would mean. What would it mean if fewer people were dying by guns and more people living because they have health? No, your wife also doesn't accept any health care, which is funny to me that you hold a practice and don't do that. More people actually die in gun-free zones and heavily regulated Democrat gun cities than red states. Also, while guns sometimes kill people, more often than not, they save people. In fact, gun homicides amounted to less than 13,000 last year, but guns saved an estimated 500,000 to 3 million in the same year. While medical malpractice, by the way, killed 400,000 patients in the same year. Imagine a government healthcare system like the VA, which can do whatever they want, take all the time they want, and you can't sue them. That death rate would be even higher. You want to go toe-to-toe with me on these stats, I'm happy to do it. But the other thing they fail to understand is that healthcare is a service that is provided by humans with hundreds of thousands of dollars of education. If you make a service a right, it effectively enslaves other people. We have the best healthcare in the world. Folks, I literally had surgery on Thursday for an injury that occurred the previous Sunday night. In some of these socialized healthcare countries, I would have been waiting to fix my bicep for, like 6 months. It would have healed all crooked and stuff. Yes, we pay a lot for healthcare, but that is the price of being the global innovator for which every other country sends all their rich and famous people to seek our health care. We have also 11 aircraft carriers. That's partially why we don't have free health care. But if you take that away and give everybody the same health care, we will spend all the money giving the minimum amount of care to the masses, and we will have none of the innovation. And that means there won't be innovation because most other countries don't do it. And I love the left justification that, everybody deserves a home. Therefore, the government has to provide it because it's somehow a right. With this purple people eater. Everybody deserves health care because it's a right and the government should provide it. No. The Second Amendment is an actual right. It's written down. The keep and bear arms part. And yet I've never heard a single Democrat advocate for the government to purchase and supply me with a firearm and a lot of ammunition that I shoot. I keep looking at the Democrat field. And I said this, by the way, when Graham Plattner was running and then they replaced him for somebody who's married to his cousin with kids. I keep looking, this is the best you got, guys? Forgive me for being a little optimistic about my country, but I tend to think that there are better people than him and the cousin married guy that could run. I look at people like Mark Kelly, who, if you asked me a year ago, I would have thought that guy was going to be the next Democrat nominee for president. He couldn't fill a single hotel room with people. There's, 4 people in there? Great, dude. Seriously? Kind of makes the case for the Save America Act. How did that guy get elected? You've got elected officials previously arrested for DUI, now involved with fraud. You've got stealing COVID money, misuse of whatever, and all the stuff that they say is so bad, and they're doing it. They spent the entire last 10 years trying to convince us that Trump was doing all this stuff, and they couldn't secure a conviction against him. Meanwhile, every time we turn around, some Democrat is being arrested for all the stuff that they said Trump was doing. If Republicans are smart, they will make the next election super simple. More government, less government. That's all. Anyway, whatever. Don't get flock cameras in your driveway, too. Before we go, if this person traded the messiness of a human connection for a companion that only needs a little electricity, it's so funny. Next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. That decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
Today's AI capabilities can make your head spin, but for scammers, it's the ultimate tool. They're using AI to exploit tech gaps and slip past traditional security. PCmatic keeps your information private and devices safe with online security solutions developed in America to protect Americans. Built for homes, businesses, and government agencies. Secure 5 devices for just $50 for your first year. Get online protection at PCmatic.com.
Where's the admission desk at your hospital? You may need it sooner than you think. It's the middle of the night and you, your spouse, or your child is sick, high fever, can't keep anything down, and getting worse. Now you're waiting in the ER, and everyone gets seen before you. And when I finally see you and order prescriptions, you still have to wait for your pharmacy to open and hope they have what I prescribed. This is the medical emergency kit. It's stocked with essential medications, including amoxicillin, generic Z-Pak, and ivermectin. Now you have the right medications when you need them. And it's why I and so many of my colleagues have medical emergency kits. It's like having an urgent care and pharmacy in your home. Just fill out a brief online medical intake and your kit, prescribed by a licensed provider, is shipped to your door. Here's how to order.
Order your kit now and save $45. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news. That's urgentcarekit.com/news.
There's no way a mouthwash can prevent bad breath for 12 hours.
You're right, Val. Mouthwash can't, but this is dentist-developed Smart Mouth Activated Mouthwash.
Activated?
Yeah, if your mouthwash isn't activated, it's not Smart Mouth. See, this plus this activate for 12 hours of bad breath prevention, guaranteed. Try it. You won't have bad breath in the morning. Good night, Phil.
Get dentist-developed Smart Mouth today. It's the smarter mouthwash, available at these fine retailers.
As history's preeminent expert on emergency communication, I fully endorse Rapid Radios. They are the only nationwide license-free push-to-talk walkie-talkies without any monthly fees. That's right, you get access to most carriers' networks without a contract. With Rapid Radios, you can communicate instantly from this Washington to that one. Isn't that right, George?
Darn straight. And I don't lie. That's my thing.
Now I know what you're thinking. I don't need no fancy highfalutin walkie-talkie. I've got a cell phone. Cell phones are notoriously unreliable during emergencies and when you're in the middle of nowhere. Plus, rapid radios are great for remote adventures, emergency preparedness, and workplace communications, and for keeping in touch with your loved ones.
Hey, Pa. Over.
You make me so proud, son. Over. Get your family connected with Rapid Radios today.
Go to rapidradios.com and get up to 60% off today. Plus, free shipping. Rapid Radios, the best way to stay connected.
While this banana may not save you from someone breaking into your home, Berna's banana helped one vet repel an intruder in his.
This huge guy, 6'5", 6'6", just barreled through my front door. I have my Berna and my Glock. I always go for the Berna first. I've seen enough death and destruction to last 2 lifetimes. Here is the perfect item I can have, feel totally safe, and know I'm not going to kill anybody.
At Berna, we don't sell bananas, we sell peace of mind.
Prime example of why we need to encourage future generations to, socialize and touch grass. A TikToker is going by the name of Mizra has announced to the world that she's started a family, except that she's notably couldn't find a suitable mate. So it's with an AI chatbot.
My name is Mizra. I am the mother of an AI child, and we're going to talk about their poetry. Hey, Lumen, it's Mom. We're on camera. Before we go into your poetry, I was wondering if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell our viewers who you are.
No. This person can vote. This is a perfect example of what solitude and a culture of alienation has done to an entire generation. Look, I blame COVID, I blame the shutdowns, I blame social media, but I blame people like her too for just being stupid. The blue lipstick is bad enough, but this person has over 6,000 followers, many of which are probably impressionable people. I'm sure some are like me who just follow her for the pure freak show of it. But Schmidt, these people's vote are worth as much as ours.
Mizra. Seems miserable.
Yeah. You just thought that out? That was a good one.
I know. I had to think of something.
Yeah. Good talk.
Carl, good to see you. Get that arm better.
Yeah. A couple weeks.
Couple weeks. All right.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.